America, 1692. A small Puritan town in Massachusetts descends into chaos, where fear and suspicion condemned dozens of people to death. Today, we look back at one of America's darkest and most infamous moments, the Salem Witch Trials. As we count down the top 5 most insane moments from the Salem Witch Trials, be sure to hit the like button for more videos about incredible history. Let's jump right in. Number 5. The Spark. We all know that sometimes one spark is all it takes to ignite a fire that will rage out of control. Such was the case with the Salem Witch Trials. On January 1692, Reverend Samuel Parris's daughter, 9-year-old Abigail, along with his niece, 11-year-old Elizabeth Hubbard, were discovered in a fit. There were contorted facial expressions, screaming and jerking movements. In those days, such fits were attributed to witchcraft, as well as demonic possession, and the girls were taken to Reverend George Burroughs for treatment. Burroughs, however, was unable to stop the fits, which soon spread to several other young women in town. At first, the afflicted girls would cry out that they felt the presence of Tituba, a slave belonging to Reverend Parris, who had recently come from Barbados. Tituba, Sarah Good, an impoverished beggar, and Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who lived alone and was rumored to be a heretic, were quickly accused of being witches, and the 3 were brought before the local magistrates for examination. While Tituba readily confessed to the crime of witchcraft, the other 2 women maintained their innocence. Nonetheless, all 3 were soon found guilty and imprisoned. Now, before we move on to our next story, be sure to hit that like button if you're enjoying the video. Let's continue. Number 4, the Court of Oyer and Terminer. As the accusations of witchcraft began to spread, the Massachusetts General Court realized that the small local magistrates were becoming overwhelmed with the situation. On April 1692, the court ordered that all accused witches in Salem be brought before a court of Oyer and Terminer, or a court of record, for trial. This court was to consist of 3 judges who were not only authorized to try witches, but also to administer the death penalty. One of these judges was William Stoughton, a man who had earned the nickname Judge Hanging for his harsh sentencing. The first person brought before the new court was Bridget Bishop, who had been accused of consorting with the devil and afflicting many of the young girls in town. Despite her claims of innocence, Bishop was found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. On June 10, 1692, she became the first person to die during the Salem Witch Trials. Over the next year and a half, 19 more people would follow her to the gallows. With the first execution, the frenzy of accusations continued to grow, and many innocent people found themselves accused, convicted, and sentenced to death without any real evidence against them. Number 3. Trials by fear. As the number of accused witches grew, so did the panic among the townspeople. Many who were accused refused to plead guilty, even though doing so would mean certain death. For in those days, a confession carried with it the promise of leniency, while those who stood firm in their innocence were often seen as stubborn and unrepentant. Those who confessed, however, were pressured into confessing to even greater crimes, as it was believed that the devil could place false confessions upon a person's heart. It wasn't enough to confess to being a witch. One had to confess to being a member of the devil's gang and implicating as many others as possible in their heresy. Since there was no physical evidence required to prove witchcraft, the trials relied heavily on spectral evidence, meaning that testimony based on dreams and visions was admissible in court. And the most damning kind of evidence was to have someone claim to see the accused person performing acts of witchcraft. With spectral evidence, the accused had no way to defend themselves, and when the accusers were the ones who held the power, innocence became irrelevant. Number 2. Executions and public panic. Now, the executions were not carried out in private. They were public events. People would show up just to watch, and as they watched people get killed, more and more people started to get scared. So, what happened? Well, after the execution of Bridget Bishop, many began to question the validity of the trials. But the execution of Reverend George Burroughs in September 1692 put an end to any doubts. Although Burroughs had been respected in the community and was well-liked, he was charged with witchcraft and executed. When Martha Carrier was executed, she cried out that the magistrates would soon rue the day that they had condemned her, for they would never have peace. Indeed, they would not, but not for the reason Carrier had predicted. By the following spring, the accusations and executions had largely ceased, and the surviving prisoners were released. Several of the accusers later admitted that they had lied about seeing spirits and had been influenced by the devil himself. In 1697, the General Court officially ended the trials and ordered compensation to be paid to the families of those who had been executed. But now we move on to the final moment of our countdown. Number 1, the legacy of Salem. Do you think justice was served in Salem? Were the accused truly witches, or were they innocent people who fell victim to a witch hunt? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The Salem Witch Trials are remembered as a dark chapter in American history, a time when fear and superstition led to the persecution of innocent people. But these events also raised important questions about the nature of justice and the dangers of mass hysteria. In the aftermath of Salem, efforts were made to compensate the victims and their families and to prevent such atrocities from happening again. But the legacy of the Salem Witch Trials lives on, reminding us of the importance of due process and the need to protect the rights of the accused. Even today, the phrase Salem Witch Trials is used to describe situations where innocent people are accused of wrongdoing and persecuted as a result. The events of Salem also continue to inspire works of art, including books, movies, and TV shows. Perhaps the most famous book about the Salem Witch Trials is Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible, which explores the themes of fear, guilt, and redemption in the context of the trials. The Salem Witch Museum in Salem, Massachusetts, is dedicated to preserving the history of the trials and educating visitors about this dark chapter in American history. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe. Leave a comment with the legend you'd like to see next. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We can't wait to bring you the next chapter of the past. Now check out the top 5 insane moments from the French Revolution, or click this other link for another amazing video. Thanks for watching. Bye.